Casey's biggest hits.
7 years ago this week, back in 1989, one of the biggest hits in the USA was Lost in Your Eyes by the only teenager in history to ever write, produce, and record a #1 pop hit. I'll have details and that big hit after this.
American Top 40.
We're on our way to the #1 song on the official Billboard chart. Well, now we're up to the song that was predicted to be a hit. It's by the singer-songwriter who has a system for knowing in advance whether her songs will make the top 40. And so far, she's hitting 2 for 2. 17-year-old chart newcomer Debbie Gibson says she tests all her songs before she records them by playing them for family and friends. And she keeps a record of their reaction. She says they're the best guide, and they're very honest with me. End of quote. Debbie divides everybody's answers into 2 groups, adults and kids. Then she takes a look at which groups like which songs, and which songs were liked by both adults and kids. When Debbie was choosing songs for her debut album, she used her panel of family and friends to narrow down a list of 200 songs to about 20. She says, quote, "From there, it was a matter of letting the producers I worked with pick the ones they felt they could contribute the most to." Debbie Gibson says that based on her song test, she's got a couple more hit singles on that album of hers. She's betting on Staying Together and the album's title song, Out of the Blue. Meanwhile, another song that passed her test with flying colors flew up our countdown to #6. Holding there this week, Shake Your Love, Debbie Gibson. Next is the current hit by 17-year-old Debbie Gibson, who says she's already written 300 songs. She says, "I never was the kind of kid whose arm you had to twist to get me to practice. I got a studio set up when I was 14 and had all the ideas in my head. I learned how to do it all on my own." End of quote. Debbie's pulled herself up by her bootstraps and earned 3 big hits in a row. All of them have reached #4, including this one, Out of the Blue.
American Top 40.
Billboard ranks them, AT40 counts them down. Now, we're up to that precocious high school hitmaker, the youngest artist ever to sing, write, and produce a top 40 hit all by herself. This girl is pretty amazing, considering some of the artists she's beat out for that title. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Stevie Wonder, and B.G. Robin Gibb were all under 21 when they each sang lead on a top 40 hit, but they had help writing and producing those hits. When you get down to the youngsters who have sung a top 40 hit they wrote and produced all by themselves, the list narrows a bit. George Michael was 21 years old when a song he sang, wrote, and produced, Wake Me Up Before You Go-Go, hit the survey. Prince was also 21 when a song he did on his own, I Want to Be Your Lover, made the top 40. But here in our countdown is the youngest artist to do that. She actually wrote this song when she was 15, produced it when she was 16, and it's now a hit when she's 17. The youngest artist ever to sing, write, and produce a top 40 hit by herself? Debbie Gibson. And here is Debbie at #7 with that song. It's Foolish Beat.
American Top 40.
Casey Kasem's off this week. I'm Scott Evans, counting them down for him. And we're up to a 17-year-old singer and songwriter who just graduated from high school last weekend from Calhoun High School on Long Island, New York. And as a graduation present, she received her first #1 song. This week it falls to #2. Here's Foolish Beat by Debbie Gibson.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem. We're on our way to the #1 song in the USA. And rocketing 9 notches to #17 is a teenager who does it all. She writes her own songs, produces her own songs, and of course, sings her own songs. Does this make Debbie Gibson an old pro? She says, quote, "No, not really. I'm just a normal teenager. I figure everything will be just fine as long as I don't lose touch with my friends and my school. For me, everything's still the same." Here's Debbie Gibson, just your normal teenage superstar, with her 6th top 40 hit, Lost in Your Eyes.
I get lost.
American Top 40.
Next is the teen queen, Debbie Gibson, a kind of girl you'd find living next door with that all-American wholesomeness. And Debbie says she's proud of that image. Quote, "I'm pleased to show people that they don't have to shave their heads, dye their hair purple, or wear leather to be successful." Well, minus the purple hair and leather, here's Debbie at #4 in American Top 40, Lost in Your Eyes.
Casey's Top 40.
Well, now we're up to the teenager whose songwriting career began when she was all of 5 years old. You know, for most people, honing a talent takes years, sometimes even a lifetime. But for the superstar with the new #1 song in the USA this week, that talent was there from the beginning. Picture this. She's 5 years old. She's about to go to her very first day at kindergarten, and she wants to start school with something special. So this tiny tot decides that instead of bringing an apple for the teacher, she'll write a song for the class. She works all afternoon on it, and the next day she trots off to her first day of school and tells the teacher she wants to sing the song she's written. A song that sounded like this.
Make sure you know your classroom. Make sure you know your seat. I'll help you find your teacher, or you'll have to wait in the street.
Recognize that voice? It belongs to one of the hottest teen singers and songwriters around today. That was her very first song. And now, we've got one of her latest. It's the new #1 song in the USA. Here's singer, songwriter, producer, Debbie Gibson with Lost in Your Eyes.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem on CT40. Now, the #1 song on the pop chart. Holding steady for a second week at the top is a teenage superstar who says her success is anything but a fluke. She says, quote, "I always knew I'd be successful in music. I never thought of doing anything else. It's what I've been striving for since I was little. I just went for it and followed through." Here she is, living up to her word with the #1 song in the USA. Debbie Gibson and Lost in Your Eyes.
Count them down on CT40.
I'm Mark Elliott for Casey Kasem. And now, we're up to the #1 song on the pop chart. It's by the teenage singer, songwriter, and producer who says of her success, quote, "Of course I was thrilled because it's what I've been striving for since I was little. But it wasn't a total surprise because everything happened one step at a time." Well, that combination of talent, dedicated training, and self-confidence belongs to the young woman with the most popular song in the USA. The hottest song in the land for the 3rd consecutive week. Here's Debbie Gibson with Lost in Your Eyes.
Number 9.
Debbie Gibson will headline the 4th Annual New York Music Awards on April the 8th, and she's up for 7 of those awards, including Songwriter of the Year, Producer of the Year, and Artist of the Year. Now, here's Lost in Your Eyes, a former #1 song written, produced, and sung by Debbie Gibson.
I get lost.
Casey's Top 40.
Well, now we're up to the latest hit for a teenage superstar who recently treated herself to a great gift, the car of her dreams. Only problem is, she can't drive it. You see, a few months ago, when Debbie Gibson turned 18, she decided it would be nice to get herself a little present, kind of a reward for all the success she's been having. So she bought herself a perfectly restored, absolutely pristine 1957 green and white Ford Fairlane convertible. She could have gotten any car she wanted. So why did Debbie go for such a vintage set of wheels? Well, she says, quote, "I love everything about the 50s. I think I was born in the wrong era. I don't really like any new cars, and this one is huge. My little sister teases me that it'll be mistaken for the school bus, but I love it. It's got fins and everything." Unfortunately, what it doesn't have is Debbie Gibson in the driver's seat. Between writing and recording songs, making videos, and going on tour, she hasn't had time to learn how to drive. So if Debbie wants to take her Ford out for a cruise, she's got to get a friend with a license to do the driving for her. But that doesn't stop her from taking another cruise up the chart, as she debuts this week at number 38 with her latest hit, Electric Youth.
Number 15.
Debbie Gibson's video for Electric Youth is a family affair. It includes appearances by Debbie's mom, a niece, a cousin, and 5 of her uncles. The idea for the video was Debbie's, and as usual, she was involved in every creative decision, including directing it. She really lives up to the title, Electric Youth.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem. Now we're up to the latest hit for the teenage superstar who's about to join the ranks of Willie Nelson, Kenny Rogers, and Cher. Not on the charts, but on the shelves of your local department store. Aside from their musical success, what do Willie, Kenny, and Cher all have in common? Well, they've all given their names to products sold in department stores. Both Willie and Kenny have endorsed lines of Western clothing. And you've probably seen Cher pushing her line of perfume. uninhibited. And teenager Debbie Gibson should soon be joining those superstars on the shelves with a perfume put out by Revlon. A perfume named for her current album, Electric Youth. It's supposed to be hitting the stores this fall. And if it's got the sweet smell of success, it'll be followed by a full line of Debbie Gibson cosmetics. Now, moving up a notch to number 9, here's Debbie with the song that inspired it all, Electric Youth.
American Top 40.
I'm Shadoe Stevens. You're listening to American Top 40 in Hollywood. And we're up to the star who last year was having hits, making personal appearances, playing concerts, going to school, and still got her homework done and graduated from high school. A year ago, this little busy bee of a teen was leading a hectic double life. She was a senior at Calhoun High School on Long Island. But she also had some extracurricular distractions. She was launching her first national headlining concert tour. She was writing and recording songs for her second album, Electric Youth. She says things went a little bit crazy at the start of last summer because we were putting together the tour and we were working on the album, and I was trying to graduate from high school. After the tour was over, though, early last fall, I finally was able to complete the album. And she also made it into Calhoun High's graduating class of 1988. Her family at home and teachers and friends at school tried to go about things in an everyday normal way, but it was a natural media event. She says, quote, "We had our own photographer and someone videotaping it so that it didn't turn into some kind of circus. I didn't really want to call extra attention to myself so there could be a normal graduating ceremony. I really didn't want anybody else's privacy to be invaded. We serviced whoever needed photos or video footage with the things we'd arranged for, and it worked out well." Well, a year later, that high school graduate is spending more time than ever in the musical College of Knowledge. Debbie Gibson turns in her latest assignment at number 11 this week on American Top 40. Here's Electric Youth. Counting down and climbing up the chart. I'm Shadoe Stevens, and I just wanted you to know I'm going on vacation next week, and I'm traveling to the home of my ancestors, the land of the Vikings, Norway. We'll be taking in all the sights and sounds, feasting on lefse and lutefisk, and yeah, we'll be relaxing there too. But check this out. We've got a special guest host on American Top 40, someone who really knows the countdown. She's 18 years old and has already had 7 Top 40 hits, including 2 number 1s, Foolish Feet and Lost in Your Eyes. That's right, that Electric Youth herself, Miss Debbie Gibson, is going to count them down for us next week on AT40.
American Top 40.
Hi, I'm Debbie Gibson, and this is American Top 40. Shadoe Stevens is on vacation this week, and I'm sitting in for him. Shadoe left me the latest Billboard magazine, plus a bunch of notes and lists, answers to questions, and some long-distance dedication letters. We're counting down from Hollywood, where the AT40 staff are all set, and here in New York, where I'm all ready to guest host. So here we go. The biggest hits played on radio and sold in record stores, American Top 40.
Number 40. Casey's Top 40.
I'm Mark Elliott for Kasem. Now, we're up to our update on another teen sensation of the 80s, a singer-songwriter from New York who's about to star in a movie about an ordinary teenager in the 60s. Earlier this year, 18-year-old Debbie Gibson hit with a string of singles from her Electric Youth album, including the number 1 smash, Lost in Your Eyes. Now that Debbie is finished with the tour for that album, she could just enjoy life, sitting around on her laurels. But that's not Debbie's style. As soon as she got off the road, she threw herself into her next project, becoming a movie star. Next month, she'll start shooting a film called Skirts, and in it, Debbie will star as a teenager way back in 1964, who moves from the cozy suburbs of New York City to the gritty streets of the Bronx. The film is described as a musical drama that brings in everything that was happening at the time, from the birth of Beatlemania and the British invasion to the New York World's Fair and the problems with gangs on the streets of the Bronx. It's being directed by Kenny Ortega, the man who did the choreography for the smash movie Dirty Dancing, and it's scheduled to come out next summer. And that's not the only 60s project that Debbie's involved with. She's just written and recorded an original song for a soundtrack album for the hit TV show The Wonder Years. It's a 60s-style tune called Come Home, And by the way, it's the only track on the album that's not a remake of a song from the era. Quite a compliment for a young woman who wasn't even born until 1971. And that's our update on what Debbie Gibson's up to. Now, on with the countdown.
Casey's biggest hits.
7 years ago this week, back in 1989, one of the biggest hits in the USA was by the only teenager in history to ever write, produce, and record a #1 pop hit. Over the years, teen stars like Paul Anka have written and sung #1s, but there's only been one triple threat in pop chart history. A star who began playing piano when she was 5 and writing songs when she was 6. By the time she was 16, she was a pop star. And when she was 17, she hit #1 with a song she wrote, produced, and sang as well. The song, Foolish Beat. And then a year later, when she was 18, she did it again. Not one, but 2 #1s written, produced, and sung by this teenager. 7 years ago this week, that second #1 was one of the biggest hits in the USA. Here's Debbie Gibson with Lost in Your Eyes.